I've got rhythm, I've got music, I'm congested. Who could ask for anything more? Oh my God, y'all. I have endured over the past several days the most severe attack of the sinuses that I think I've ever had. Like, I have mucinixed, I have Sudafeded, I have Flonased, I have neti potted, I have eaten kimchi, jigai, am I saying that right? I have eaten curries. I have surrounded myself with tissue, and like I cannot be out of arm's reach of a box of tissue. This was full at the start of the weekend. And yeah, it has been a very wild ride. And this is the best I have felt in days. And so even though I am not quite 100%, I'm pushing a strong 78. So we're going to roll with that so that we can continue the next video in this series, which is about the bar. The bar is the framework that I created last year to elevate the quality of our lives, focus on who we are becoming more than what we are producing. And the bar consists of 6 components: THEBAR, talking, hobbies, experiences, body awareness, arts, and reading. We have talked about the talking, the hobbies, the experiences, the body, and today we're talking about the arts. Not just the consumption of the arts, but the creation of arts and how that process allows us to stay grounded, reduce stress, have agency, and it addresses the question. So, in addition to the framework that I created, I also developed a set of questions to frame the year. And one of those questions is, what tables would I like to sit at? So, we are going to unpack all of those dynamics right in this video. Congested though I may be, y'all push through with me. Keep watching. So, a few days ago, the president of these yet to be United States posted a video of President Obama and his wife in just the most racist, unflattering, undignified, repugnant way possible, unapologetically so. And so that was like Friday, right? Like, here we are smack in the midst of Black History Month, and Black people are still very much having to show up every day and fight for basic human dignity. And that was the morning. But that evening, I also had tickets to the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, who was hosting a performance of Marvin Gaye's "I Want You" album. It was a jazz performance, and when I tell you, on a Friday night in the dead of winter in Chicago, the Chicago Symphony Orchestra was packed. The event had sold out. It was an appreciation of Black culture. It was an appreciation of Black music. It was a celebration of Black joy. And you could feel the collective balm in the room. You could feel the music ebbing away and softening the rough edges of what we had just collectively experienced earlier that day. And this is something that I learned last year, is that creative expression, whether you are witnessing creative expression or whether you are engaged in creative expression, it creates a different experience. It broadens the playing field, because when you have been insulted or you have had a negative experience, sometimes we have a tendency to stay right here in that experience, like it's a one lane highway. But what art and creativity does is it creates another lane on the highway so that you don't have to stay here. You can come over here and have a different experience. And it doesn't take away the fact that there's this thing happening in this lane. But what it does is it opens up the possibilities for what you are able to experience. And that really is the beauty of art. You know, I'm not a religious person, I'm not a theologian, but I do study literature. I mean, I teach English and have a love of books and all things. And you know what has always fascinated me about the Bible? That of all the things that it could say at the very beginning, right? Once upon a time, or picture it, Sicily, 1972, like of all of the beginnings that it could have, I think the first thing that it says is, in the beginning, God created. Like, of all the things that a deity could tell you about himself, themselves, herself, whatever you believe, the first thing that was communicated was creativity. And I think the second thing was that we are also created with that same notion to build, to form, to shape, and to have agency in what is before us. It's not just about creating songs or poetry or music or pictures or sculptures. It's also about creating the life that you want to live. It's also about having this notion that you are not saddled and you are not stuck just with the cards that life has dealt you, that even within difficult and disparate circumstances, you have an opportunity to shape what that experience looks like and feels like. So I have my trusty notes here. I want to share with you what the research says about the engaging of arts, the creation of arts, and how this has impacts on your mind, your body, your health in general. I want to start with a study published in 2016 from Kamal Ray and Muniz, and they found that cortisol levels dropped after a 45-minute art making session, and the benefits were not just limited to artists. They're saying making art isn't like nice, it's biological. Like every single session of creating art can lower your cortisol, and your cortisol is the stress hormone. And many of us are stressed, we are pressed, we are coping, we are numbing. I had a conversation with a friend the other day, and she was like, "Are you just raw dogging life right now?" And I was like, "What?" She was like, "No Lexapro, no Adderall, no Wellbutrin, like no Xanax, nothing, no weed." And I was like, "Yeah, no, I have a low drug tolerance, which is part of the reason why I've been battling all weekend and battling this congestion, because like a dose of NyQuil will have me face down in the gutter somewhere, child. I can't do it. And I've been like that since I was a kid. And so if prescription medication is not an option for me, and there's also something to be said that our society is so toxic and unhealthy that it requires medication just to navigate and survive day to day, I had to find alternatives. And so artistic expression is one of those drug-free alternatives. Number two, arts engagement is consistently linked to health and well-being outcomes. And so Stuckey and Nobel in 2010 reviewed evidence across music, visual arts, expressive writing, and they found that arts-based interventions are associated with reductions in adverse psychological and physiological outcomes. So there's this solid body of research that is linked to improvements in mood, in stress reduction, in self-efficacy based on being involved in the arts. And it's not just visual arts, but it's also the movement. Okay, so get out there on that dance floor and cut a rug. Number three, there is global evidence that art supports prevention, coping, and recovery. And so the WHO, the World Health Organization, researchers in 2019 synthesized 3,000 studies and concluded that arts can play a role in the prevention, health promotion, and management of illness. And so it's not even just that it helps your mood. It's not that it builds your sense of self-efficacy, and it's not that it just reduces your stress, but it also helps facilitate the healing of illness, because not every cure can be found in a bottle. Like there are some medicines that don't come across the prescription counter, and my whole goal with this framework is to make it accessible to people, things that they can reach out and engage right here, right now, real time intervention. Number four, and we're getting there. Arts can support trauma treatment alongside evidence-based therapy. Now, this one I don't have to read about because there have been tons of studies that talk therapy doesn't work for everybody. There are some kids, there are some people who just do not have the language and the emotional fluency to articulate what they've experienced or why they're hurting. And so they have used artistic expressions, so painting, drawing, sketching, chalk art, in order to process those very difficult emotions and experiences. And it has done more to help them heal and recover than sitting down, struggling to find the words to describe what they are feeling. And then last but not least, do you know that play is a well documented form of healing and a tremendous mood booster? So think about recess, right? Some of you hated recess because you're like, I'm not about that outside life. But the reason why recess was such an essential part of child development is because it stimulates brain function, cognitive outcomes, social functioning. It teaches you how to play well with others. And unfortunately, when we become adults, we just stop. We just stop playing. We got to go to work. We got to pay the bills. We got to feed the kids, and we don't have hobbies, which we've talked about in a previous video. We just stop playing. Then we cast judgment at people who do play. And so there are still lots of adults who play Dungeons and Dragons. Okay. There are adults who are like gamers. And there's a lot of stigma and criticism like, are you kidding me? What are you, a kid? Like, why don't you grow up? There's actually evidence to suggest that play, okay, and not just board game play, not just video game play, but going outside and tossing a frisbee around, going outside, flying a kite, going outside and just engaging in playful activity, even as adults, has tremendous health benefits. So this is not just me saying, go to the opera, pick up a paintbrush. This is me saying that artistic expression, creativity, the consumption of it, as well as the engagement in it, has tremendous benefits for your mood, your health, your ability to recover, and social outcomes, your ability to engage in healthy ways with other people. And this brings us to the question, what tables do I want to sit at? What tables do I want to sit at this year? Because we just had a Super Bowl, and what I loved about Bad Bunny's performance is that he had a singular vision, and it was to bring Puerto Rico and the culture of Puerto Rico to the world. Mission accomplished. Mission accomplished. And America is not a monolith. We talk so many years about how, America's a melting pot. Well, here's the thing about the melting pot, right? Like if you take different types of cheeses, right? Gouda, Swiss, Manchego, whatever, Parmesan, and you put them in a pot to melt them, well, after a while, you can't tell one from the other, right? And so this idea of assimilation, that we must all be the same, that there's no room for your culture. If there's not a sameness, if everybody doesn't understand it, then it's not welcome. No, you have to think about what kind of table do I want to sit at, okay? And this is not about politics. This is about the fact that everyone in this country does not have the same experience. Blackness is not a monolith. Whiteness is not a monolith. Being Asian is not a monolith. It people experience culture in different ways. And do you want to sit at tables that make room for difference and diversity, or do you want to sit at tables that are homogenous? And it's like, yeah, it has to follow these very kind of strict conformist statutes, otherwise it's not welcome. And so art opens that up. Even if you didn't understand a single word of the Super Bowl, you understood the heart, you understood the joy, you understood the celebration of culture, you understood the social connection, you understood the emotion in the music. It was a beautiful expression, a beautiful artistic expression of culture. And so when you think about what tables you want to sit at, you need to ask yourself, is this a table where I'm safe to explore? Is this a table where it's safe to ask questions? Is this a table where it's safe to try new things? Oh my goodness. Hold up. Hold them up. I'm gonna show y'all what I did this weekend. Now, no judgment, okay? I am not an artiste per se, but this is what I did. I made this guy. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So I love me some Snoopy, love him down bad. We go together real bad and have ever since I was a kid. I will never not love him. I have Snoopy figurines all around this house. Don't judge me. And so I went to a sip and paint and I traced him out and I colored him in and I added some hearts or what have you. And it felt so good. It was relaxing. It stimulated joy, even though I wasn't feeling the best. To walk away and be able to have this to put, I'll figure out a place for it somewhere in this house, somewhere in this on my walls, was such a joy. And so it was the freedom to express, the freedom to mess up, because some of these hearts, like if you look real close, it's not exactly perfect, but it doesn't have to be. Okay, when you think about what tables that you want to sit at, are you sitting at tables that encourage your expression, that encourage your exploration, that encourage you to branch out, that encourage you to discover, which is all of the things that art brings to the table? Or are you sitting at tables that force conformity, that judge, that malign, that criticize, that hate, quite frankly? And is that a table that you want to continue to sit at? And so when you're thinking about what tables do you want to sit at this year, I think that you owe it to yourself to discover who you can be and what you can do when you engage in creative expression, when you allow other people's creative expression to take root and to take hold of your thinking and say, is there room to expand ideas that I've previously had? That's the beauty of art. It pushes boundaries. It pushes you. People have visceral responses to it. And that's how you know it's doing its job. So the last thing I want to say before we get out of here is that arts, creative arts, performance arts, the art of movement and all of it, it offers clarity, right? Because art is very subjective. And so what one person will look at and be like, oh my gosh, that is incredible. That just is so gripping. Somebody else could look at it and be like, I don't get it. And that's fine. That is perfectly fine. It's not that you have to like it. It's not that you have to love it. It's not that you have to, be drinking the Kool-Aid or anything like that. But it does offer clarity. Here are my notes. You have to ask yourself, what moves me? Art has a way of sharpening your intuition. It has a way of restoring your agency. It has a way of promoting self-discovery because you see what you like and what you don't. Art is about recognizing what moves you, what is aligned with you, what speaks to you, what restores you, and having that type of clarity in a world that is pushing so many different ideologies and agendas is helpful. It's helpful to know where you stand in the midst, that you're not shifting sands, that you know who you are, that you know what you like, that you know what you're about. And having that sense of clarity is very empowering in our current climate. So that is the beauty of arts in this framework. If you would like some guidance around this idea and how to incorporate this into your life, I have created an entire guidebook called The Bar, Raising the Bar for Better Living. And it talks about how to incorporate the talking, hobbies, experiences, body awareness, and movement, and arts. And the very last one, reading, which is going to be the last video in the series, it talks about how to incorporate all of that into your life in a way that is guided, that is structured, that is meaningful, that is reflective, that is contemplative, that is really focused on who you're becoming and not just what you're doing and producing for other people. And so if you would like to check that out, I will leave the description, the link to that, along with the promo code for you guys to get a discount. And if you have not already, make sure that you subscribe to this channel. Make sure that you like and share this content. I appreciate the comments that you guys have already shared with this series. I know that it's resonating with you, and that means a lot. It means more than words can say. It is why I am forcing myself to show up on this camera, even though this whole sinus situation is a hot mess. But I digress, and I will see you guys on the last video in the series, which is about the power, the transformative power of reading. I'll see you next time.